It was kind of a dream season. A year before, the Lady Bucs had gotten to the ASUN championship game, lost to Belmont. We actually made it to the WNIT that year, but while that was exciting, it was a little bit disappointing. But making it to the NCAA tournament the first year, it was a dream season. It was unbelievable. And to be able to make it all the way, you look back at it, it almost seems like a dream. But you got an NCAA trophy at home. I got a championship ring, and all those pictures and memories. It was just a neat experience. I think that's one of the more enjoyable parts of doing the ball games, getting to see these players grow up and mature, not only as people but as players. Michelle DeVault's freshman year was my first year actually doing Lady Bucs basketball, and I still remember a story one of the assistant coaches told me about when they went out and watched her when they were recruiting her, and they said he got in kind of a scuffle, almost a fight during the game, and they liked that hard-nosedness out of her. And of course, then she turned into such a prolific three-point shooter. But when you get to see them grow up on the floor as players and individuals, I think that's one of the more rewarding parts and more enjoyable parts of doing the games. I don't know if there is any one best part. I think probably the most rewarding part of it for me is when fans come up and tell me how much they enjoy the broadcast. Now, number one, they appreciate. I try to keep that in context because people enjoy the fact that the games are being broadcast and they get to follow them when they're on the road. So, that's what they're really telling me. But when people appreciate what you're doing and they express that to you, I think that's the most rewarding part. But you hit on a couple of the others too. I think being a part of this team, and even though I don't coach, I don't go out on the floor, I come to some of the practices. I don't get to travel with the team as much as Jay does with the men, but I still do get to travel with them. And you talked about the first NCAA championship. I don't think I'll ever forget walking out of the hotel to get on the bus to go to the arena, and the cheerleaders, the fans, the bands were lined up. And even though I'm just the broadcaster, I felt like I was a part of that. And being a part of that family, the well wishes when I lost my dad about a year and a half ago from the team, from Coach Kemp. Coach Kemp was one of the first people who sent me a text message. That kind of stuff. It makes you feel like part of the family, and you get to know the players. And you mentioned some of the families, getting to know them. It's all very rewarding. Yeah, that was kind of interesting because of my full-time job. I had some other conflicts because of that. It turned out that the Lady Bucs were playing on the same day as the spring Bristol race. I have obligations with that. I had to actually go to the boys' state basketball tournament, cover a local team. So I was just covered up, and there was no way that I could leave when the team left. Well, fortunately, the first round of the NCAA tournament was in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And so what I did was I got up early Sunday morning to start a pre-race show, a 4-hour pre-race show up at Bristol Motor Speedway that we started at 9 o'clock in the morning. I got up early enough to get dressed, get ready, pack everything I would need for later, went up, left Bristol Motor Speedway when we completed that, drove to Bowling Green, Kentucky to get there in time to call that game. And I think that just, to me, that if anybody ever wondered what this basketball team, what this program means to me, if that doesn't show them, nothing will. That's my dedication to the team, that's my dedication to the program, and how much I enjoy being a part of it. Drove back that night. Fortunately, Jay Sandos was coming back too. He rode with me, which I think we got back. I think I dropped him off in the parking lot at the university at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I was very thankful I had company on the way home because it was a long drive back. Actually, the get in there ball was something that's relatively new. It's always been pretty much when somebody makes a basket, it's been good. That's the way I generally call it. And it's not something that I've thought out, because different broadcasters have signature calls. I never really thought, well, okay, I need a signature call or anything like that. But I talked about Michelle DeVault and what a prolific three-point shooter she turned into. And I think the get in there ball is something that just kind of developed from my enthusiasm for the game. And I don't recall exactly when it happened, but I know it had to have been a key moment in a game. And she had become such a consistent three-point shooter, and the ball was on its way. And when she released it, you could usually tell when it was going to go in. And that's how true a shooter she was. If it was on, it was on. If it was off, it was off. And kind of blurted it out, "Get in there, ball." And when it did, I went, "Yes!" And that was the fan in me coming out. And it just kind of developed and carried on. And then as that season went on and she continued on to become the record setter in most three-pointers made in her career, it was very easy to do that with her. Now, I will have to say last year I didn't get the chance to use it quite as often because we were kind of searching, the team was kind of searching for that consistent three-point shooter. But I did get a chance to use it a few times, and in fact, Natalie Pickwell in a game at the Dome, I think, had 8 points in a game, made a couple of three-pointers, and she actually pulled me through on one when I said, "Get in there, ball," and it dropped down, so I was able to throw a yes in there, so that was kind of cool. You know, it's tough to say because there's a lot of ladies that do things well. I don't know if it's fair for me to really say, but I really enjoy watching Toronto Wilds play. And this is not meant as a negative towards anybody else, and I guess some people may look at it as a little chauvinistic, but she plays like a guy. She does things like a man does on the floor, the elevation, and there's other ladies on the team that do that too, but she just, from the first time I saw her as a freshman, she elevates, and the way the form in her shot. Now, the other ladies on the team are able to get the job done with different form, but she's just a unique individual with that. Sierra Evans is probably the most tenacious player I've ever seen. That she just goes out and grits it out. She is a blue-collar player from the word go. She battles for rebounds. She's aggressive inside. She can shoot the outside shot, and she's fun to watch too. And Letitia Belcher, for a post player, does things that still, in my mind, defy logic. I still remember the first season that they won the ASUN championship, her stealing a pass at midcourt and driving all the way to the basket and laying it up. And post players, 6'2" post players don't do that. So while I guess I'd have to give a little bit of an edge to Toronto, you know, Sierra and Letitia both do outstanding things, and the whole team is a lot of fun to watch. You know, I told her after they won the first ASUN championship, I told her, I said, you know, I said, nobody deserves this more than you. And I really meant that because she has worked so hard. And I think she's done a tremendous job too, because over the past few years, you've noticed some change in her staff and assistants, and they haven't missed a beat. A lot of times, you know, sometimes people think, well, this assistant does a great job and that assistant does a great job, and maybe without them, you're not going to be as good. But she's had some turnover and brought in new people, and they haven't missed a beat. They have continued to be good. They have continued to get better, and I think that speaks for the quality of coach that she is in itself. You got to take your hat off to everybody involved with the grant team, and I think that it's a very worthwhile cause. And I'm great. I was shocked that they were able to get it a second year in a row, because you're talking about all of women's college basketball. And the fact that they were able to get it a second year, I think just speaks volumes for the job that they did putting the presentation together. And you know, I think it's very worthwhile, because it frustrates me when I see some of the crowds that we get for the women's basketball team. This is a team now that has been to the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row. It is a team last year that had made their first ever NCAA trip and had made it to postseason 2 years in a row. And with the exception of the Vanderbilt game, still didn't have as big a crowds as what I thought that they should. There's a lot of apathy, I think, when it comes to women's and girls basketball, girls high school basketball, women's college basketball, unless you are a top 10 national program, like a Connecticut, like a Tennessee, somebody like that, a North Carolina. But this is a good basketball team. It's a good basketball program. These young ladies go out and work their tail off every day. They do it in the summer just like the men do. And I think that they deserve the support and the recognition. And I think that grant team helps get them some of that recognition, and hopefully will continue to grow the program and get them the support that I think they deserve. You know, I talked before about expectations from players, and the expectations for Sierra Evans and Toronto Wilds and Letitia Belcher are going to be tremendous. A lot of people were referring to them as the women's big three last year, and even more so this year. So there's high expectations. This is a team that's won 2 straight conference championships. There's certainly very good teams that are going to be gunning for them. It was hard as it was to repeat the first time. I think it's going to be even harder this time. They've made it to 3 straight postseason tournaments. And there's going to be everybody's going to be gunning to get them, but there's going to be high expectations. And when you look at the roster, the new recruits that have come in, I think Coach Kemp and her staff have done a tremendous job bringing in new talent. Now, obviously, when you look at them on paper, that doesn't give you the whole picture. But when you look at them on paper, it makes you excited about wanting to get to see them on the floor and see what they look like as basketball players, because we've got height that I've never, the numbers in height that I've never seen from this program before. You've got experience coming back. You got point guards, you got wing players, you got post players. It's a good mix, and maybe the potential for the most depth. And when you talk about the three key returners, let's not forget about some other peoples like Gwen Washington, who broke into the starting lineup as a freshman last year. You got Shannon White, who, if it wasn't for her in the first half, later stages of the first half of the game against Jacksonville for the ASUN championship, Lady Bucs may have never won that game and went on to a second straight NCAA tournament. So there's a lot of great talent coming back, and it's got you excited about the season coming back.